So here is a little recipe on how to make pecan pie, because let's face it, it's the time of the year to make it. It is thought that the word pie derives from the word magpie, a bird which flies around collecting little bits and bobs for its nest. Medieval pies contained many different things. In fact, it was not uncommon to find rabbit, crow, pigeon and chicken all cooked together in a medieval pie. So the rhyme goes, la 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 la, sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, pecan pie, but not to get thinner. Get nice and fat for Christmas dinner. You will need pecans, sugar, flour, pastry. I make my own usually, but you don't have to bother. You can buy it in the shop. This is short crust pastry. Salt, butter, and my absolute favorite ingredient, maple syrup. I will leave the full recipe in the comment section so that if you do want to make this seasonal recipe, it's all there for you in black and white. So in the story Hansel and Gretel, the children, Hansel and Gretel, are abandoned in the forest by their father and their mother, who's kind of supposed to be the evil stepmom, who told the father to go and take the children into the forest. So the father dutifully takes the two children out into the forest and they leave a trail of stones. The clever kids find their way back home using stones, but they're abandoned again. And this time on the way to the spot in the forest where they're left, they decide to leave breadcrumbs to find their way back home. But so sadly, they find that the birds have eaten all of the breadcrumbs, so the breadcrumb trail is gone. So the two children are stranded in the forest. Don't worry, Gretel. I know we're lost, but I'll leave a breadcrumb trail all the way from our house to wherever we get put or wherever we may roam. I'll leave the crumbs here so we can find our way home. There was actually a famine in Europe in 1314 where parents were thought to abandon their children, and so the legends have it, even eat them. And this is where the story of Hansel and Gretel is said to be inspired. The children are first abandoned and then the witch lures them in the house with the promise of sweets that will water your mouths, i.e. delicious food, something they didn't have. The breadcrumb trail is eaten by birds. It's almost like all of the food in the novel doesn't exist. The Brothers Grimm were credited with being the writers of Hansel and Gretel. Talking of scribes, subscribe actually literally means under right. So sub meaning under. So subscribe comes from the Latin sub, which means under, and scribe meaning, well, it meant something like a writer. So underwriter or write under, it really meant to write your name under something, or at least give weight to whatever you were writing your name under, writing your name at the bottom of a document basically. Obviously no documents to write under here, but you certainly can subscribe to the channel by clicking the subscribe button. This means that you won't miss any of my books. So orchids might be really beautiful, but their name is possibly slightly less so. The word actually comes from the Greek orchis, which means testicle. And if you've ever looked at an orchid, underneath they have these kind of storage organs which look like, well, balls. So in Middle English, the plant was actually named ballock wort. Wort, I believe, meaning something along the lines of plant, and ballock meaning bollock. Bollock plant. Yeah, next time you give your gran orchids, just remember what you're actually doing. Hansel, did you leave the trail of crumbs? Of course I did, Gretel. We'll find our way home. Line a dish with the pie crust. Spread the pecans all over the pie crust, and then add your syrupy mixture to the pecans in the pie crust, just to keep them nice and warm. The word dinner actually enters the English language via Old French dîner, which meant breakfast at the time. Breakfast, or dîner in French, meant literally the first meal of the day. Literally to break one's fast. Dîner ultimately came into French via Latin, disurnare, meaning, so if we break it down, Latin dis meaning kind of undo, or the opposite, as in disobey, for example. And then you've got unare, which meant to fast. So the opposite of fasting, breaking one's fast. There you have dîner in Old French and dinner in English. So obviously, because it meant breakfast and the first big meal of the day, and it actually meant breaking your fast, dinner was actually eaten a lot earlier in the day. In medieval and modern Europe, it was common practice to have this meal at about midday, which is interesting given our rather early start we have now. So dinner was always kind of the main meal of the day, and usually taken at midday in medieval times. But people started to have this big meal, the main meal of the day, a little bit later. They might have something a little bit before, petit déjeuner, obviously in French. So yeah, like a little meal. So the term for breakfast, as in breaking one's fast, came to mean the first small meal of the day, followed by dinner, which would be a sort of larger meal, which you would have later. Dining at 6 o'clock or later has become more common, obviously, and that's when we normally have dinner now. It became more fashionable for the main meal of the day to occur later in the day. So it probably came in with the dinner party tradition. I don't know, it could have been something like that. So something extravagant that everyone kind of enjoyed together. Dinner got eaten later and later. Hello, little children. Come into my house. It is made of sweets. Oh my God. That will water your mouths. Cover with foil and bake in the oven. Gretel, how long have we been here? Don't worry. I'll kill her. I know full well she wants us for dinner. And with that, Gretel pushed the witch in the oven, and never did they see another of her coven. So there you have it. Pecan pie, a seasonal sensation with a trail of breadcrumbs eaten by birds. Subscribe for more.